Now, according to police, here is what they discover on the property. Quote, during the search of the residence and ground, a body of a deceased subject was located in a grave. That grave was covered with concrete that appeared to be partially fresh concrete, and it had a black Cadillac parked over it. The grave site was directly adjacent to the storage shed. While removing the concrete, there was live grass found under the concrete. The body had a large white zip tie around the neck. Within the residence, similar looking zip ties were found, along with a pair of blue jeans with what appeared to be blood on them. Credit cards with the name.
The Walton County Sheriff's Office affidavit begins with a single clinical sentence. Quote, the body had a large white zip tie around the neck. That is the official record. One sentence that collapses a human life into a detail of evidence processing. But the document does not prepare you for what the investigators actually found when they lifted the concrete slab. Green grass. Live grass. Still growing underneath the cement that was poured to hide a body. Think about that image for a moment. A man is buried in a shallow grave. Concrete is mixed and poured over him to seal the crime forever. But the grass does not cooperate. It keeps growing, trapped under the weight, waiting for someone to break the seal and let the light in. That single detail, live grass under a murder cover-up, is the entire case in microcosm. You can bury the truth, but it does not die. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you are subscribed to Trial Theory Unsealed, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The victim was 43-year-old Jason Kolhart, a father, last seen on May 24 leaving the college condominiums in Niceville, Florida. For a month he was simply a missing person. Then, on June 25, a witness already in custody at the Okaloosa County Jail offered information in exchange for a negotiated plea. He identified himself as the boyfriend of 38-year-old Isabelle Rose Johnson, and then he told investigators a story that reads less like a witness statement and more like a confession filtered through a third party. He said Johnson received a phone call from her roommate Bobby Wagstaff. The dog had dug up the body. She needed to return to Florida to clean it up. Clean it up. That is the phrase that appears in the affidavit. Not recover remains. Not address a crisis. Clean it up like you would a spill in the kitchen.
Here, quote, while in Georgia, on or around June 2nd, 2026, Isabelle Rose Johnson received a call from her roommate, Bobby Wagstaff, who was located in Freeport, Florida. Wagstaff called to tell Isabelle Rose Johnson that the dog had dug up the deceased body, which we later learned is the body of Jason Kolhart. And she needed to return to clean it up. Isabelle Rose Johnson had her friend Brian come pick her up and drove her back to her residence located off of Sunset Lane in Freeport, Florida. Brian drove her home and back to Georgia in his white F-150 pickup. So based on this report in the affidavit, it's presumed that Jason Kolhart was killed sometime between when he was last seen on May 24th and then on June 2nd. When the call from Johnson's roommate was made about the state of Kolhart's body, allegedly. Now, here's what the affidavit states happened when Johnson returned back to her boyfriend's residence in Georgia. Quote, when Isabelle Rose Johnson returned to join her boyfriend, who had remained in Georgia, she carried with her a laundry basket of very smelly clothes. The boyfriend observed a pair of blue jeans and a pair of black nylon panties. The boyfriend advised that Isabelle Rose Johnson told him she killed the victim by placing a zip tie around his neck. She then buried him in the yard and may have covered that area with a black Cadillac sedan. Isabelle Rose Johnson told her boyfriend upon her return that she covered the body with cement so that the dog would not dig it up again. The boyfriend advised the grave may be by the septic.
Johnson then allegedly told her boyfriend exactly how she killed Jason Kolhart. She placed a zip tie around his neck. She buried him in the yard. She parked a black Cadillac sedan over the grave. And when the dog started digging, she covered the body with cement. She told her boyfriend she fixed the septic tank. That is what she called it, fixing the septic tank. She did not fix anything. She covered a body with concrete. But the grass kept growing anyway. That is the first time we say it. The grass kept growing anyway. Now here is where the narrative fractures in something stranger and more disturbing. The affidavit contains a second witness statement from a man named James W. Teal, another roommate of Johnson. When investigators approached him, he was initially afraid to talk. Then he said something that stopped the interview cold. Quote, F it. I am going to die soon anyway. Teal had terminal cancer. He had nothing left to lose, and so he told them what he knew. He said Johnson told him she killed a man named Jersey, her nickname for Jason Kolhart, by placing a zip tie around his neck. He said she got rid of him because he was, quote, aggravating and irritating her. And then he added another detail. The victim was threatening to interfere with Isabelle's custody of her children. So the motive, according to the court record, was not some elaborate criminal conspiracy. It was irritation and a custody dispute. A father was zip-tied, buried, and concreted over because he was aggravating. That word appears in the sworn statement. Aggravating. The disconnect between the brutality of the act and the pettiness of the stated reason is the kind of thing that makes you stop and read the page.
At first, he was hesitant to speak with law enforcement in fear of retaliation. But get this line in the affidavit. According to the document, he tells police that he had a terminal cancer diagnosis and said, quote, "F it, I am going to die soon anyway." Wow. Now, in that interview, Teal allegedly says that Johnson advised him about the murder of a man named Jersey and that she killed him by placing a zip tie around his neck. He also shared details Johnson allegedly told him about what actually happened. Quote, Teal advised investigator Gunn that he was aware of Isabelle getting rid of a boy because he was, quote, aggravating and irritating her. Teal further stated to investigator Gunn that the boy was also threatening
to make sure you understood it correctly. But the affidavit does not end with the murder. It documents what happened next. And what happened next is that a network of people allegedly decided to help Isabelle Rose Johnson disappear. 5 individuals now face accessory charges. 2 couples, Martin and Sandra Leverton, Michael White and Kathleen Morris, along with roommate Bobby Wagstaff. The Walton County Sheriff's Office has publicly stated that more arrests are anticipated. They are actively pursuing additional individuals who provided aid or support.
Yeah, we are actively in active pursuit, I guess, of additional individuals that have been helping her and providing any aid or support to her. So that's part of our entire investigation. We know that she's not the lone actor in the act itself, but it's mainly now we're shifting to that anybody that's been helping her or is willing to help her, we're going to make sure we do everything we can to hold them accountable as well.
Because allegedly right now, 5 people helped her escape. You're anticipating more arrests in this case?
Absolutely. I'll say this just kind of as a side note. We have those 5 people that have been charged with, obstruction of justice or accessory after fact. But aside from that, during our efforts to locate her, we've made an additional 15 to 20 arrests, not directly related to, but as a targeted measure to make sure that people know if you're going to, you need to be prepared. Again, that's arrest for warrants, that's arrest for drug possession.
The text messages recovered from these accomplices read like a group chat from a particularly competent criminal enterprise. Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton, quote, "Why is Harley on our couch? More importantly, when are you coming to get her?" Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris, quote, "Sorry, I'll explain soon. Stuff handled." Kathleen Morris again, quote, "Bring me something? Please." Which investigators later determined was a request for methamphetamine. You have a woman wanted for murder sleeping on a couch, people texting about it like she is an unwanted houseguest, and a request for drugs in the same conversation thread.
Changes between the 2 couples. So let's start with June 27th. So you have Kathleen Morris, and this is to Martin Leverton. Quote, "Why is Harley," that's one of Johnson's aliases, "on our couch?" June 27th from Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton. "More importantly, when are you coming to get her?" She goes on to say, quote, "WTF is going on, Michael? Why did Marty leave his young female friend here? And when is he coming back to get her?" Then Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris, quote, "I'm headed there now." And then from Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton, "We talked. Anything I can do to help, I will. Don't forget the backpacks, please." And we have talked about those backpacks and how important a piece of evidence they may be. Now, this is still on June 27th from Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris. Quote, "Sorry, I'll explain soon. Kay, we can talk for chat very soon." Yep, the stuff handled. Then Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton again. This is at 11:42 in the morning. "Bring me something, please," which police later learned, they allege, was meth. Now we're at 5:34 p.m. You're a expletive for not leaving anything, LOL, need to ask about stage 4 friend. So it continues on June 27th, Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris. Quote, "My Georgia buddy can't help us out this time," which police learned was Martin's brother. Then Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton again. "Okay, 1 min, June 27th. Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris. okay, I need to come get Marty. Then Kathleen Morris to Martin Leverton again. Have you talked to Harley? June 28th, from Martin Leverton to Kathleen Morris. No. Next day, June 29th, Kathleen says, will you give me a call, please? Then the day after that, Michael White to Kathleen Morris. Give me a call before you head back. I have some expletive to talk about to let you know what I told the law officers that come to the house. And you can see just in the alleged cover-up how damning these text messages are going to be for these alleged accomplices. Kathleen Morris to Michael White. What I said to those cops is the honest to God truth. I have no friends and I have no family, and that's beyond depressing. It's pathetic. You telling them that I do nothing reinforces that. LOL. Time for it to be over, don't you think? So based on Michael White and Kathleen Morris's alleged involvement, they were both charged with second-degree felony accessory after the fact, and they are both due in court for a plea hearing on August 18th. So now, according to police records, the last known sighting of Isabelle Johnson, at least from her alleged accomplices, was June 29th when she left the property of Michael White. But from the details we already know,
This is not a sophisticated criminal network. This is a chaotic circle of people connected by narcotics and poor decisions. And yet, this network managed to keep Johnson hidden across multiple states for weeks, which raises the question that reframes this entire story from a local manhunt into something far more urgent. If 5 alleged accomplices with this level of disorganization can successfully hide a murder suspect across state lines for this long, what happens when someone with actual resources and planning decides to vanish? The chief deputy of the Walton County Sheriff's Office, Dustin Kozin, appeared for an interview and described Johnson as a master manipulator. He detailed how she convinced a tattoo shop clerk to order and pay for an Uber by fabricating a story about fleeing domestic violence. Right then and there, in real time, she invented a narrative of victimhood and weaponized a stranger's compassion to escape.
So I think some of the manipulation part is due to the crowds that she runs in. There's drug usage involved. There's other criminal activity that's involved, and so there's many circles. And so part of that manipulation involves having so many people that she can gain access to, or that can provide some sort of support to her. And then what we've seen from early on in the investigation, the end of June, where she was able to talk a clerk at a tattoo parlor into ordering an Uber for her, paying for it, and it was this concocted story that she was a victim of domestic violence right then and there. Again, that's not saying that she never has been, but then and there for sure was not. We have been right on our heels during that video, so to speak. And so from here on, we know that there's been some other information from some interviews and witnesses where there's little bits and pieces of.
The sheriff's office says she uses multiple aliases: Harley, Jessica Elaine Bowman, Jessica Lane Thrush, Jessica Dowie, possibly Denise. She wears hats and glasses, may have cut or dyed her hair, and looks different in every photograph ever taken of her.
Including the fact that she allegedly goes under several different names, including Harley, as you saw in the text messages. Other names include Jessica Elaine Bowman, Jessica Elaine Thrush, Jessica Elaine Thrash, Jessica Dowdy, and possibly Denise. The Walton County Sheriff's Office also says that she has been known to be a, quote, master manipulator by moving around a lot and often getting people to help her by playing on their sympathy. The sheriff's office said that Johnson may tell stories about going through tough situations like domestic violence or personal hardships to convince people to give her rides, money, or other kinds of help. The sheriff's office says that Johnson is also known to use multiple disguises like hats and glasses, with police believing that she could have gone as far as.
The last known video shows her with a ball cap and a calm demeanor, talking her way into another ride, another favor, another day of freedom.
Well, if you can tell from the video, the initial video there from the tattoo shop, had her hair kind of cut low or not shaved, but definitely cut lower on one side and put on a ball cap. If you look at the video, her demeanor and her attitude, she, I believe, based off of her story, is, again, manipulating or providing the story that she's been victimized and she's essentially on the run from a domestic violence incident. And so anything to do with changing her appearance, wearing a hat, I believe that she may have cut her hair shorter and or dyed her hair. So that's a potential. And that could be dyed lighter and darker because we've heard both stories. So we have to pay attention to each little bit of potential appearance disguise. And if you look just genuinely at the pictures that we released, she looks different every single one. That's mug shots to some of the social media posts that we put out, but also some of the video.
Chief Deputy Kozin said something during that interview that cuts to the core of this manhunt. He said, "We have rules we have to play by. She doesn't. That is not a complaint. That is a tactical assessment. Law enforcement must follow procedure, build cases, obtain warrants. Johnson simply lies. She tells people what they need to hear to open their doors."
I think that plays to her ability to continue to, well, let me back up. Some of it is her pattern of life. You know, she doesn't have a 9-to-5 job. To what we know, she's not really ever had a 9-to-5 job. She doesn't have a home. She doesn't have a consistent place where she's been. So she bounces around from place to place with people that she knows or that she's known in the past and has associates with. And so you overlay these circles, there's connections with all those people as well. And so that's what really, too, for us makes it challenging. Our list of people of interest has grown every single day because we do more interviews and it's, oh, have you talked to so-and-so? They may know something. And so as that list continues to expand, there's a likelihood that somebody else is going to be involved. And so we're continuing to, again, put forth the effort there and getting every little piece of the puzzle and every little bit of piece of evidence, not just for the homicide investigation, but investigation as to where she is.
What are some of the disguises that she...
Their wallets, their cars. She turns human empathy into an escape route.
And so we had to shift our efforts to call her Harley instead of calling her Isabelle Johnson. So that was one of the first shifts of making sure we're calling her what people know her as. And then you add the Jessica Bowman, Jessica Dowdy, additional names that she's been arrested or are listed as an alias. And even we found some, I believe, some paperwork that has some of those names of official paperwork where she's used that for, again, paperwork documentation purposes. So really, I'm going to say it like this, all bets are off of what she could be doing. Our focus is on making sure that we follow the facts and the evidence to find her, all working towards that successful prosecution of the criminal case for the homicide.
How is she able to get so many people to this point to put their freedom at risk to help her, according to law enforcement, to be able to evade this murder charge?
Broadly, the consensus from all of the interviews, but also some of the individuals that we've dealt with, when you're involved in narcotics usage, when you're involved in criminal activity, there's so many avenues, again, relationships, romantic, sexual nature, you name it, that you can get somebody to do something that you want them to do. And that's unfortunate for us. We have rules we have to play by. She doesn't. So she's able to use...
The grass kept growing anyway. Which brings us to the unanswered question that sits at the center of this investigation. The last confirmed sighting of Isabelle Rose Johnson was June 29, when she left a property owned by Michael White, carrying 2 backpacks. Since then, nothing. The search has expanded across Florida, Georgia, and Alabama.
About people who have potentially seen Isabelle Johnson?
Minimum 4 to 5 every day just outside of our local area. So that first week after everything, when we really started focusing outside of the investigation, because an investigation, especially in a homicide, especially when there is a body that's been recovered in a shallow grave, is not just a day thing. That is a long-term investigation, and the long-term starts up on the front end with a week worth of re-interviewing and documentation of evidence. And so when we shifted to our efforts need to be really focused and directed at finding her. We were pulling in 3-4 tips an hour, especially with some contacts that we were making out in the public, again, doing that targeted enforcement with people that she's been known to associate with, which ultimately led to some of those arrests. And so the tips do pay off. Yes, as we get more and more that we have to devote those resources, but we had one last week and we devoted all of our resource to it and it did not pan out. But we're able to now say, hey.
The reward stands at $16,000. The U.S. Marshals task force is involved. But she remains out there, somewhere, using a name none of us know, wearing a face we would not recognize. The chief deputy looked directly into the camera and delivered a message meant for her. Quote, "We're gonna find you. That warrant for an open count of murder is not gonna go away." It was not arrogance. It was certainty.
Find you. There's no question about it. Our investigative division has been working nonstop on this. And so we're going to find you. That warrant for an open count of murder is not going to go away. And what we are going to continue to do is to continue to put people in jail that are helping you. And ultimately, we'll see you back in Walton County if you're out of Walton County. But we'll see you for sure at Walton County Jail at some point. And that's not being arrogant. That's not being cocky. That just...
The grass kept growing anyway. So now we direct you to the public record. The Walton County Sheriff's Office has released the affidavits, the still images, the last known video footage, And the detailed descriptions of Johnson's tattoos, including the rose flower on her left hand or large ekforpion extending from her left hip down her thigh. These documents are available. The question we leave you with is this. Look at those photographs, the mug shots, the social media images, the surveillance stills. She looks different in every single one. If you passed her on the street tomorrow, would you recognize her? Or would you see only what she wanted you to see? Tell us in the comments. And if you want Trial Theory Unsealed to keep following the evidence wherever it leads, like this video, share it, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We will be here when the next document drops.